You're at a party, maybe it's a birthday, or just one of those casual get-togethers where everyone's laughing and the music's playing and people are telling stories that overlap with more stories. You're smiling. You're nodding. You're saying the right things at the right times. And somewhere beneath all of that, there's this ache, this quiet, persistent feeling that you're watching everything from behind glass. Like you're there, but not really there. Like everyone else is connected to some invisible thread you can't seem to find. And the strangest part, no one notices. Because you've gotten so good at this, at showing up, at performing presence, at being the version of yourself that keeps the room comfortable. But when you leave, when you're finally alone in your car, or lying in your bed staring at the ceiling, the loneliness doesn't lift. It deepens. Because now, you're not just lonely, you're lonely and confused about why being around people didn't fix it. This is the kind of loneliness that doesn't make sense on paper. You have friends, you have people who text you, who invite you places, who would probably say they care about you. And yet, there's something missing, something you can't quite name. Let's talk about what's really going on. The first thing to understand is that loneliness isn't about the number of people around you. It's about whether or not you feel felt. There's a difference between being seen and being known. You can be seen by everyone in the room and still feel like no one actually knows who you are beneath the surface. And when that gap exists, when people are responding to a version of you that isn't quite real, their presence doesn't reach you. It bounces off. This is where the social mask comes in. At some point, maybe in childhood, maybe later, you learned that certain parts of you were more acceptable than others. You learned that being easy, being low maintenance, being fine made people stay. So you built a version of yourself designed to be welcomed. And it worked. People liked that version. But here's the cost no one warned you about. The more people like your mask, the lonelier you feel. Because the affection isn't landing on you. It's landing on a performance. And you can't take the mask off. Because you've been wearing it so long you're not even sure what's underneath anymore. There's also the fear of being too much. Somewhere along the way, you got the message that your real emotions, your real thoughts, your real reactions were overwhelming. Maybe someone pulled away when you opened up. Maybe you saw what happened to someone else who was too honest. So you learned to filter, to shrink, to hold back the parts of you that might make people uncomfortable. And now, even when someone asks how you're doing, you edit yourself in real time. You give them the version that's safe, the version that won't scare them off. But that editing has a price. Every time you hold something back, you widen the distance between you and the people around you. Not because they're doing anything wrong, but because you're not letting them all the way in. Then there's the exhausting internal dialogue. When you're around people, you're not just present, you're monitoring, adjusting, watching yourself through their imagined eyes. You're thinking about how you're coming across, whether you're talking too much or too little, whether that joke landed or fell flat. Constantly evaluating yourself distracts you from the moment. Thoughts about how you look are so intense that you miss the moment. You are physically there, but mentally you are somewhere else. This ties into something else, the belief that your true self is not good enough. Somewhere inside, there is a voice saying that if people really knew you, they wouldn't stay with you. So you keep your distance, not by being cold, but by never fully offering yourself. You share what's easy, you keep what's tender locked away, and that creates a strange kind of emotional quarantine. People can get close, but only so close. There's a wall they don't even know exists, and it's not there because you don't want connection. It's there because wanting it too much feels dangerous. This is where people-pleasing becomes a form of hiding. You're so focused on making others comfortable that you disappear in the process. You agree when you don't agree. You smile when you're hurting. You say, "I'm fine," so often it becomes a reflex. And people believe you. They believe you because you've become fluent in the language of okayness. But every time you abandon your own experience to manage someone else's comfort, you're sending yourself a message. Your truth doesn't matter here. And after enough of those messages, you stop even trying to be honest. Not because you're lying, but because the truth doesn't feel safe to speak. What's painful is that this often comes from a place of deep care. You don't want to burden people. You don't want to be the friend who always has problems. You've seen how people respond to too much honesty, and you don't want to become someone others avoid. So you carry everything yourself. You become the friend who listens, who supports, who shows up, but rarely the friend who receives. And the imbalance grows so slowly you don't even notice until you're exhausted and empty and wondering why no one ever checks on you the way you check on them. And maybe that's when the resentment creeps in. Not loud resentment, quiet resentment, the kind you feel guilty for having. You start to wonder if anyone actually cares or if they just like what you do for them. And you can't even bring yourself to test it, because what if the answer is the one you're afraid of? There's also something almost paradoxical happening beneath the surface. You crave closeness, but when someone gets too close, you feel exposed, vulnerable, unsafe. So you pull back. You make yourself a little less available. You start canceling plans, not because you don't want connection, but because the possibility of being truly seen brings up something almost unbearable, a fear you can't always name. This is the wound beneath the loneliness, the belief that intimacy is dangerous, that closeness leads to pain, that if you let someone all the way in, they'll eventually leave or disappoint or see the parts of you that you've decided are unlovable. And so you protect yourself by staying just out of reach. You stay lonely because loneliness, as painful as it is, feels safer than the alternative. The hardest part is that none of this is visible. You don't look lonely. You laugh at the right moments. You show up when you're invited. You're not isolated in the way people expect loneliness to look. And so no one asks if you're okay, because you've already answered that question with your presence, with your smile, with your careful, curated self. But the ache remains, the sense that something is missing, that you're surrounded by people and still somehow on your own. If this feels like your story, I want you to know something. You are not broken. You are someone who learned to protect yourself in the only ways you knew how, and those strategies kept you safe for a long time. But maybe they're also keeping you lonely now. And the first step isn't fixing yourself. It's just seeing yourself clearly, gently. Let this be that moment. If this video resonated with you, you're not alone.